Hello and welcome to the NZ Nomad Runner podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Lucas.
And I'm your other co-host, Charlotte Milne.
We are run coaches at CMF Running, where we help runners and athletes of all abilities train to any surface, any distance races. Today, we continue on with our Tarawera series, up to the course previews now. We've done the 50k. Now, today, it's the 100 miler. Into it, we've got a number of our runners and athletes in the miler this year. So it's pretty exciting. I'm also running this year, so I'm really looking forward to. It's like we're inside that under 3 weeks now. By the time this gets released until race day, I'm getting really excited to be out there running with all the crew, and everyone's training really well. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, and I was just thinking that, maybe you're doing a different distance this year and you're looking to doing the 100 miler and you're like just geeking out Tarawera content. You're listening to this and you might find by listening to this, it gets you real excited to do it. That's what happens to me. I think it happened to me last year and it's happened to me again this year. Like, I want to come and do this course as a result of doing this podcast. So you can listen to it for inspiration as well. And hopefully... it looks like this course that will probably stick.
Exciting, yeah. Been a tough few years, I guess, for the event in terms of the miler and 100k course, and this sort of section here, the Eastern Okataina, it wasn't it? Yeah, that had the slip. A number of years now that it's been. So the last two runnings of the race, have been contingency courses, and but yet this year, the event organisers, awesome work team, like getting a loop, that sort of traditional, back to that sort of traditional miler course, so to speak. And I'm really excited to run it. And that's what got me back here this year. That's ultimately what got me back here this year. It's been 5 years since I've run the miler course. And I'm like, I want to do like this course again, as it is, the traditional miler course. And obviously, from a coaching perspective, I want to see the new bits of the course so I can help you guys next year. And then we'll know it inside out,
Yeah, and that's probably a big part of like your why or my why. Like, I'm doing Faultline 100 miler. That's a big part of my why, to help, runners and athletes to get the best outcome on the day, because that's ultimately, as coaches, like what we hope for our runners and athletes, to have the best outcome on the day for them personally. And also, the sort of angle that we're coming from for this podcast is hopefully helping you all get the best outcome on the day, as we're not going to go so much into like the terrain and the hills and the stuff like we did in the 50k, because we'd be here for like 3 hours. Yeah,
not too granular.
But more how to approach sort of key sections,
different blocks of the race. What I'm kind of thinking, about how to approach my one, and what I'm advising some of my runners that I work with as well in their preparation.
Because most of us, we're going out there for a decent chunk of time, and it's just about a long sort of aerobic zone 1, zone 2 mission.
Going out for a mission,
and so there's going to be things that are going to crop up along the way that is more of how you manage them to dictate your outcome or your experience out there, opposed to how to approach each sort of section sort of physically, like from a physiological point of view, whether to run this hill or walk this hill, because you're probably just going to walk them all. And so that's what we hope it's a key takeaway today, is that you come away with some tips on how to approach and break down the 160 odd Ks.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess that's a good place to start. It says 160 odd Ks, 162ish on the website. I think it could be plus 165, that kind of way. You always seem to find a few more Ks in there. Let's see what it ends up being. But from a mental standpoint, with me going onto a miler, I always, like with this, I am just like, 168, 170, like whatever. Like, I'm prepared to do the distance, because then from a mental standpoint, when you're out there on race day, you don't want to be at Redwoods at 162 k's going, I'm supposed to be finished now. I've still got 7 more k's to go. And you're like, 30 hours out there already, whatever, prepared for whatever whatever it ends up being. And so, I mean, that's a good tip actually to start with. I always have on my phone, like home screen, I make a little portrait style thing that has the aid stations on them, just the kilometre marks where they're supposed to be according to the course, on the site and stuff. And I put a different colour for like the crude ones or the drop bag ones. And then as I'm going through on race day at the key marks, like for example, Rurufa Kaitu and outlet, I'll check my watch and see how we're tracking, see what the actual is on my watch versus what it says on my little phone thing. And I find that really good because then it can help me sort of mentally prepare for what I'm in for as the race unfolds. Yeah, and I find that a really good way of just nice. Monitoring how my day's going. And there's sort of no surprises, right? When you're 130 k's in and you got that mental fatigue going on by then. Everything's kind of sore. It's good to kind of have have that locked down, that kind of thinking, what you're in for.
Sure, and then you can just pass that over. If you pick up the your pacer at Okataina, you're we're at 118, but my watch says this. You keep charge of it.
Make sure you remind me.
Yeah, I will.
Char's my pacer.
Yay.
And my crew.
Yes. So I'm doing an ultra marathon as well. I'm doing a miler as well on the day.
Oh, yeah. In terms of time out there.
Yeah. I'll probably have a sleep, obviously.
Are you going to come to the start? We haven't even talked about that yet.
Probably come to start and probably come to see you. Last time I'll see you, plus probably some of the crew that might be behind you at Rurufa Kaitu, and then I'll probably next see you at Okataina. Is the plan.
Buried Village, though. You're going to be at Buried Village, right?
Oh, I'm Buried Village. I mean, yeah, I'll be out from the start to Rurufa Kaitu.
Yes. And then you have a break.
And then I'll have while you run 50 k's to 118, so 70 k's by yourself.
That's how long it is, isn't it? 55 k's Rurufa Kaitu to Okataina. Yeah, is that what it is? Yeah.
Well, if you want to get to the granular, it's actually 68. But
yeah, that's a big hike. That's a big chunk of the day and the race. Yeah,
it's a key section that it's part of a key section that we wrote down, and how to approach that. But
yeah, and we'll talk about outlet aid station 2. Obviously, that's in between that section. We'll talk about that a bit later on, because it is a crude one, but. We won't be using it as a crude one because the mission to get to. But we'll cover. And a lot of times the buses do get cancelled on years gone by due to fire risk in that part of the forest. So I don't know what the approach is from the event this year, but it's a mission. We just take it out of the equation and put a drop bag there. It just fixes that.
Yeah, if you have got a crew, which hopefully you do for something like a miler, a crew makes a significant difference to your day out there. But it's definitely a key place for a drop bag instead of a key place for crew is the outlet because of where it is in the race. And obviously not seeing your crew people for, probably most of us 70 k's. It's a long way, long time. Yeah.
If you want to, on the channel, on the podcast, on Spotify and my YouTube, you can go back and listen to a couple of videos ago. We did a podcast about my first miler, talking about the day and the race and how it unfolded. So I recommend going back and listening to that. That was a fun one. Good one to listen to on a run, actually. Yeah,
just when you're cruising along.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Elevation profile, it's sort of that 3,800 sort of saying that's what it was sort of reading out there. I would say, it's looking at around that 3.5-ish. I'd say that's accurate. 3,800 meters elevation across the whole race. Sounds about right to me. From what I'm seeing, what I've seen in the old course, all that kind of stuff. Sounds about right.
Nice.
So I guess an overview of the terrain.
Runnable.
Yeah. Runnable. Undulating.
When I say runnable, I should say not technical, not runnable, potentially in the same
as in flat,
in the same way as maybe the 50k is, but runnable in terms of not technical,
not technical,
not
terrain.
rooty, as such, and a lot of forestry road, single trail, just that nice sort of Tarawera Rotorua kind of forest. Obviously mixed with, like I said, forestry road.
Yeah, a couple of like tar sealed road sections. Sort of around that before you get to Buried Village. A bit of tar seal road sections there, and then a little bit of roadside stuff later on. Many k's later. As you come towards the Blue Lake aid station, like road crossing and stuff like that.
One boat crossing.
Oh, you got a boat crossing? That's cool.
You actually do your fastest K.
Yeah, I think that does get timed as part of the time as well. So, what else? Yep, you got the section sort of after Buried Village and before Isthmus. That's not an easy section. It's not a hard technical section, but it's not an easy section. It's a little bit uneven underfoot at times. It's just a little bit niggly, but it's earlier in the race, so you got little bits like that. And like you said, heaps of forestry road throughout these new sections.
Obviously, there's sections of this course this year that we have never run on, so it's only from speculation or what we sort of presume, but there's sections we've never run on. So
the bit sort of after Ruri Whakaitu, up until so that's that sort of 12 odd k section after Ruri Whakaitu never done, and later on after that kind of 93k mark to more or less to Okataina at the 118 odd k mark. Never run before, but by all accounts, mostly forestry road.
Yeah,
with a decent climb in there, actually.
Yeah,
like doesn't look like a climb, more like it's like one of those, So what's that? 95. Oh, it's a long way. Yeah, that's so you got a net up of
15 k's,
12, 13. Yeah, what is that?
13 k's.
13 k's. Yeah, approximately
13 to 15.
of just up. So what's the elevation? 125 there. Yeah, what's that? 500 odd meters.
Yeah,
500 to 600 meters across 13 odd k. So it's not much actually. That's not much, but it's just over a long stretch, isn't it? I can imagine, like, if that is forestry road, I will be sort of walking that. I think there'll be it'll be that run walk kind of. It's a little bit too thing to run the entire one. Yes, I think it'll be a run walk jobby for me, and I'm around that 22-ish hour plus or minus. That's kind of what I'm thinking on that one, just out loud.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I guess like the other bit of terrain, then after Okataina we do know about, there's a beautiful Western Okataina trail. That's more of your native bush, wide trail, isn't it? It's a mountain bike trail as well. Not as in a technical mountain bike trail, but as in a nice big wide mountain bike trail. And beautiful native bush, very soft underfoot, bit more moist, like that kind of thing. And obviously be nighttime then, won't it? Unless you're at the front. If you're like under 18 hours, then you'll still have daylight there.
And this podcast might be like, not, I don't know, could be appropriate, might not be. There's sort of to listen to.
We had the elites listening to our
okay.
my mate Beth last year.
She did the 100k.
Beth Pascal won the 100k, didn't she? She won the female 100k, and she was like, "Your guys' course videos made all the difference." Shout out to Beth. Hey, coming back. She might be coming back.
Maybe she's in my life.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Any other terrain things to mention?
I was just going to say that, the Okataina Hill is obviously a pretty well-known hill, but maybe more in the traditional course with where it is, like that 118, 120K, obviously a significant point where you're going to pick up your pacer, but, it can be quite challenging, obviously, on the old legs because, like in a miler, there's probably 100% guarantee that your legs are going to start hurting, around that 100K. So I suppose, it's like that using the sort of mindfulness of like, even though it's had like this point of view, like approaching it like it's, just another hill in a 100-mile race. I'm just going to, if you have paced or raced, so more raced the race like to the conditions, then it is what it is, and hopefully you've done the training, the hill training, the vert training, so you're feeling pretty strong on the hikes up. And obviously, like so many things can happen in a miler, like from, a nutrition point of view that sort of makes or breaks how you are in the back end of the race and how you approach, this hill. So I suppose it's just like, make sure that, I guess, race each section appropriately and not
break it down to smaller chunks, all that kind of thing,
and not being like worried about one particular hill in the whole race, and you're just like, the Okataina Hill, like, oh my god, I'm gonna be like screwed, because you probably will be. But if you've just like broken it down, maybe in terms of how we're going to explain, you're feeling actually appropriately tired for it.
Yeah, it's 4Ks and about 300 meters. I'll probably have to say as well, like there's not as much climbing out of the Okataina aid station as there was traditionally, because the aid station used to be at the lake, and there used to be that first climb that you'd have there as well. So yeah, probably not quite the bigger story that it used to be, in my mind anyway. Like you said, it's all how we mentally approach it, But I mean, I guess 4Ks of 300 meters, that's a decent enough ratio of vert to kilometers, so that'll be hiking mostly for me.
Sure.
Yeah, pretty much all.
Cool. We'll just probably chatting away.
Yeah. Any other? I think that's kind of it. I guess this section at the beginning of the course and the section at the end of the course, after Blue Lake, is part of the 50. So you could listen to the 50K course video that we did, and we cover a bit more detail about some of that parts of the course if you want to know a bit more. But yeah, in the interest of time, can't get too granular on each little section. So should we move on to now the sort of breakdown of how we're going to approach it? And so 4 a.m. from Te Puia, race starts. Very exciting. And in my mind, we were talking before we came on to record this, I'm breaking it up into a number of sections. The first section's being start to Buried Village, which is about 30 odd Ks. And then what was the next section?
We said 30 Ks to Outlet, which is about 88 Ks.
Yes, that's, what's that? Best part of 60 Ks, isn't it? Yes. That's another section. And then the next section was Outlet to Okataina.
Yes.
And then the next section is Okataina to Blue Lake. And then the last section is Blue Lake to the finish line. Yes. Obviously on race day itself, like for me anyway, like as I'm there running, like I'll break it down into smaller sections, like aid station to aid station, or this section to this section, like that kind of thing, into smaller chunks. But just from an approach going into it, these sections, what we've kind of identified and how to help prepare me and our athletes. Start to Buried Village is like the warm up.
Yes.
That's the mantra for that.
Yeah.
30 Ks. You're starting at 4 a.m. You're just out there. You're cruising. You're just going through the motions. You're just warming up into the day.
Yeah, getting out that sort of that start line adrenaline, probably. I remember you saying, like, maybe you're going to have headphones in, not so much talking. You know, maybe you're going to start obviously talking to fellow runners out there later in the day. Maybe, you know, here it's pretty quiet.
Yeah,
the reality's setting in, probably. Like,
yes.
the reality's setting in, like, oh my God, I'm about to run 160 odd Ks. This is happening. And, you know, you just, yeah.
Yeah, the start line of a miler does tend to be fairly quiet, or like once you've started, it does tend to be fairly quiet. Everyone's just getting into their emotions and just sort of, yeah, I think it's just, yeah, just mentally, like getting the gear in the right place, getting into the right gear, and yeah, you just, yeah. So that's sort of like the warm up section for me. Thinking about the run. Oh, one thing we'll just quickly mention as well. We mentioned it before, just about the road section. We're thinking that the high-vis vests, which have to be New Zealand, Australia, is a grade system approved. You can see that on the Tarawera site for the mandatory gear. But we're thinking, yeah, this road section from the Blue and Green Lake car park to the Buried Village, it's sort of like a road section. I would imagine that that's one of the sections that will be wearing the high-vis.
It's going to be a good look for everyone. It'll be fun to see.
Very nice.
all these little people. I don't know why you were little, maybe because you were out there for a long time, but you know,
these runners.
Just you.
Luckily, it's not in the heat of the day, because But anyway, we've just ordered our ones from Fuel Me. Shout out to Fuel Me, one of our partners, and $12, man, $12, and they are the NZ and Aussie whatever grading those numbers approved, which is what's required for the mandatory gear. So yeah, we'll try and chuck the link in for that in the show notes, and yeah, grab yourself some fueling, whatever you need, and your vest. That's what we did, and they look pretty good. So yeah, that's the warm-up section covered, and yeah, so that's a good place to see your crew. Should we touch on the crew?
Yeah.
Like, crew can go to Puringa, which is that 10k aid station. We won't be doing that. What are the other crewed aid stations?
Just give me a moment. Yeah, so 10Ks, Buried Village, Rerifakaitu, which is 50Ks.
55, I think.
55Ks, sorry. Outlet, which we just touched on, that might not be a thing, but that's at 88Ks. And then obviously Okataina, 118. Blue Lake, 145. And Redwoods, which is
towards the finish.
So
our plan in terms of crewing is Buried Village, Rerifakaitu, and Okataina. Just the three for me. For crew, and then obviously Char's going to be my pacer from Okataina onwards.
And I'll help crew him as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be crewing me at those stations.
Yes.
And at Blue Lake.
Yeah.
As my pacer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so drop bag perspective, before we move on, just outlet for me. Outlet and possibly Blue Lake, because you're going to be at Buried Village, we're going to be at Rerifakaitu and Okataina. We've got someone, Matt's going to be there as well for support. Good friend Matt, one of our Run Club members, he's going to be there, and he can take the crew bag.
Yes.
Wherever he's going. Back to his accommodation.
Yeah.
And then, possibly we'll, depending on whether Matt can go to Blue Lake or not, we'll see. I think he said he can. But depending on that, he can either take the crew bag there for the crewing, or, it might be a drop bag at Blue Lake. So that's our kind of place. That's Buried Village covered. That's the warm-up. Seeing you there, bit of crewing, very fast, in and out, under a minute.
Yeah.
Bottle swaps, whatever, gone. Yeah, and then the next section that we talked about, and I think this is a real key section coming up. For me, I think this next section is like a race make or a breaker. And so it's that 30 to basically 90 Ks, 60 odd Ks in the middle of the day. That's, I think, in the middle of the day for most of us. Big out there. You're out there in the day. In the heat, if it's hot, generally it is. Yeah, I think that's a make and break part of the day. So first of all, we have the Buried Village to Isthmus aid station section, which is, it's a good amount of, that's 30, yeah, it's about 14 odd Ks, 13 and a half according to the site, 14, could be a bit more, like, yeah, we'll find out on a training run actually we're about to do.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's a good distance between the aid station for a kickoff. Like we mentioned before, the actual trail itself is not the fastest. And it gets warm in there. Like the heat gets trapped in that trail. A lot of us will remember last year, the miler was coming in the opposite direction, but it was later in the race. And a lot of folks got absolutely smashed on that Tarawera Trail coming from Isthmus, or really they got sort of smashed out in the open in the road bit that used to be there. And then in this section, a lot of people ran out of water. It seemed to be more like 17-ish Ks. A lot of folks were kind of at 16, 17. So that part of the race, like last year especially,
Yeah.
that was like 60, it was like 70, 80 Ks, 60 to 80 Ks through the race. Afternoon time, lunchtime, just furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many people got wasted last year in that.
We were like sitting at like a Karaka just before they went out, and people kind of looked like they had just been like in the middle of like, the middle of nowhere, like just come out of like an oasis kind of like vibe, like, oh my God, I got through that.
We were hearing some crazy stories as we were sitting there. Some of our athletes as well having trouble like there, but then regrouping and carrying on.
Yeah.
But it was a particularly hard section. So yeah, same again, like going the other way. It's just won't feel those acute effects that others felt because it's early in the race. But it's a decent old trail, not the fastest. Then we got the boat crossing and a bit of farmland road, a little bit of forestry road, then see you again, Rurikaitu, 55 Ks, and then that's the last time I'll see you until Okataina, which is how many Ks later? Maths?
I think it was 70 Ks, yeah.
It was about that, wasn't it? So yeah, for us, we'll be approaching this like just preparing for a long stretch of not seeing you, just making sure, take a little bit extra time at this one, just making sure all set to just be out there for, have more stuff in the bag perhaps, or just that kind of way. There's also a decent little stretch between Okataina there's a decent stretch also between the Rurikaitu aid station and the Tonga aid station. It's about 13 Ks, which again, at that time of day, warming up, it's a decent bit of hike, decent bit of time, bit of elevation in there. So just making sure you take a little bit of extra time there. Not planning on any shoe changes for me, like for the race, only if something crops up and I feel I have to. Planning on the roadies.
Nice. You're a roadie.
Yeah, and check out our trail, road or trail shoes for Tarawera Ultra podcast that we recorded on the channel there as well.
Yeah, I think with with heat, we all, some people absolutely love heat, some people really struggle in heat. So do what you need to do with the heat. Always like the ice bandanas or like tipping cold water on you. Definitely hopefully if you've got crew people and they're coming to Rurikaitu and, having that chili bin or whatever it is to have the ice, because, cooling down your core temperature makes a significant difference. Yeah,
to your work rate.
Yeah. And obviously you as the runner, like at the other aid stations that your crew obviously can't get to, like tipping water on yourself, getting as much water on you as possible if it's hot. And then, accepting the heat, you know, like if you're the type of person that just gets really hot, that flushed face feeling, just really uncomfortable. I find like if I just accept it and, maybe it almost naturally slows you down, but it passes. Like if you don't obsess over it, like, for someone like myself that can get hot, like if I'm like just all I'm thinking about is like, what do I look like? I'm really hot. It makes it worse. But if I just don't actually care, and I try to get fueling in, or what can I change, it passes. And your body's pretty amazing. Like it sort of adapts if you race to the conditions.
Yeah, and it's just that thing, isn't it? Always running to the conditions, running to the course, and that's something I'll be very conscious of. Like in this block that we mentioned, this buried village to outlet block, it's something I'll be very conscious of. That whole part, that middle section of the race is just managing my output in the heat, because I might have to go slower than I would on a cooler day. I will have to go slower than I would on a cooler day. That's just a given. And everyone's in the same race. So managing yourself well through there can pay a lot of dividends later in the race once it does start cooling down, because Rotorua does cool down in the evenings, and it's quite pleasant. Like once nightfall comes, it does get cooler there. It's not like the Auckland humidity. It does get a bit cooler. So plenty of opportunity to move well later in the run versus like trying to go at a certain pace or output in the heat of the day, just absolutely roasting yourself and then just being absolutely done at night when it's cooler. Like that's not a great picture to paint, is it? That's what I'll be thinking of. And I think even Buried Village and Rurikaitu, when we see each other, there's going to be a focus on just we'll have that icy water chili bin thing with a cloth, and just getting the cold water down the back of the neck, quick wipe of the face, it makes a huge difference. Dipping the head in the water,
yes, I love that.
And dipping the buff in the water, putting it on, makes you feel so much better. Long sleeves, perhaps some folks might want to wear long sleeves, just depends. For me anyway, I think that's a call I'll make closer to race day, depending on what it's sort of all looking like. We'll be doing some training runs up in Rotorua, so I'll just sort of see where it's all sort of landing. But long sleeves can be fine too, as long as it's like breathable. Just preventing I don't really like the whole sunblock thing. I'd rather cover up. It's just not. A good breathable long sleeve is actually fine, because once you sweat underneath, it actually does cool, and you can pull it up sometimes when you're in the shady bits, pull it down, like it's actually fine.
I would agree. I'm kind of liking the long sleeved loose option, and so it sounds like a good option to do. Just do whatever you need to do to keep yourself cool.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, don't try not to like do that thing of like, I'm going to, I got to bank some time, and just hang on towards the end, because you're feeling fresh and great. It's not like you're racing a 50k, and it's not like you're racing even 100k, like you're racing 100 miles.
Miler is so different.
And, it's like, so it's a different output, as well. And, if you're going to go like just a bit too hard and, hang on towards the end, yes, you're going to get to the finish line, but, there's lots of ways to race a race, and it's always good if you, a good feeling if you have a successful race, and success obviously looks like lots of different things, whether it's getting a PB, an amazing time, or if it's having just a really solid day out there. Like, a thing about Mila as well as that there's problem solving. It's a bit problem solving, right? Like shrinking the problem down to smaller.
Solve them when they're small. Don't let them get big. Whether it's without being hypersensitive. Also, your legs are going to hurt. Like that's a given. The body's going to hurt. That's fine. You can keep moving forward with all that. But if you think there's a blister happening in your feet, perhaps you're coming up on outlet aid station, then deal with it there instead of Okataina, you know, because it's still 20 odd Ks, you know. That blister could go from something small to something quite major 20 Ks later when you take those shoes off, you know. And I've seen people who have DNF'd due to like horrific blisters. Yeah, even elites. I've seen that in Western States. Last year there was a front running elite that DNF'd due to just a ridiculous like blister that just went absolutely raw.
Yeah.
So yeah, look after your feet.
Yeah, your feet are, you know, they're very important.
High commodity. High commodity in Myla, feet.
If your feet are screwed, you can't run on your hands. So
yeah.
They're your prize asset, really.
And if you're going to buy new socks, make sure you wash them. You know, maybe twice. Like, try them in training. Don't go and buy new socks on race week and put them on new, because there's like stuff in the socks, like, I don't know, whatever's in them, chemicals and whatnot, that's just used in the manufacture process. And heard plenty of stories of brand new socks causing major blisters. Hot tip.
Nice.
My shoes and socks, while we're on this topic, is planning to wear shoes the whole time, and I would likely do just a sock swap at Okataina. And that's pretty much it for me. Same shoes as long as they're working out fine. My last mile at Fault Line, which was just this last year, I wore the same shoes for the entire race and just did a sock change.
Nice. And I think another key thing with like the aid stations is like probably like the ones that we've highlighted on the screen are like the key ones like we've mentioned, but within that there's even there might be like one or two like really key ones where you're like actually might be sitting down. So Buried Village, you won't be sitting down. Rarificatu?
No.
Not Rarificatu? Oh, okay.
No.
First time Outlet, maybe?
Yeah, possibly Outlet, because I'll have a drop bag there. Some things to sort out in the bag, no doubt.
And then Okataina, probably sitting.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, Okataina will be a sit down, but shoe change, check the feet. Sock change. That's what the sock change is more about for me. It's not too much about the fresh pair of socks, although it depends if I might have found some water, got in it, whatever, along the way. But yeah, it's more about just, you know, because I do put a little bit of covering on some certain hot spots that I get on my feet that I know are just prone to blistering, so I do preventative measures and just cover them up. And so often it's just about reapplying that stuff on the toes, just having a look at the feet. They're all good. Chuck some new socks on, away we go. So sitting down.
It's also probably a good place to like regroup, you know. It's kind of like 120 Ks in, you know, you've got your sort of like the last big chunk of the miler to go, and it's kind of like, sweet, I'm good to go. It's almost like you restart your run.
And you're getting your pacer. That's key. It's a big lift.
Yeah. If you're hardcore and don't have a pacer, you know, it's still probably a good time to regroup, you know, maybe have some mouthwash, you know, and just...
Yeah, have that broth that
going into the night.
Have that broth or those noodles or those toasted sandwiches they have at Okataina. They have toasties at the aid station. So, yeah, that's a good place to, think about something special, like different in your rotation. It's something that I'll be implementing as well. Outlet with the drop bag, possibly a can of cream rice in my drop bag,
Nice.
Little half cans, and have a spoon in there so I can just quickly. Okataina is probably more of the broth. Okataina and Blue Lake, more of the broth, or maybe a toasty.
Oh, yeah, that does sound good.
Okataina. Maybe Blue Lake's more of the broth because it's later on in the race. So just knowing that there's some options like that. There is pizza at Blue Lake as well from Domino's. Well, at least there has been all the years gone by. So there's a good chance there'll be pizza there. Yeah, so it's just knowing sort of what's in those kind of options for you as you get deeper. Cup of tea.
And that's a cup of tea would be nice.
Yeah, that's something that I've thought about after my last Fault Line. I was like, cup of tea might be alright because that's like a nice, like, clean caffeine burn.
And plus, there's a bit of like, if you have it with milk, then there's a bit of like fats in there as well, which probably will be a good break from, obviously, with racing 100 miles, like you do not want to be relying solely on gels and the bars and the sugary stuff 100% of the time, unless you're an absolute sugar addict. But you're going to get sick of it more than likely. So having those savory options is definitely a key thing. And also
just to mix it up a bit, especially if you're over 20 hours, probably if you're like that under 20 hour athlete, you can probably get by on all that sort of stuff.
Well, you're pretty much home for dinner really if you're under 20 hours.
You're getting home to bed. So you can. But that's what I found with Faultline, because I did 23.5 at Faultline, quite a hard course, 5,000 meters. And I did find that I remember thinking the other day, I was like going, man, I wish I was finishing in like 22 hours. My stomach would just feel way better. There's quite a difference, because you're going into the night, like rather than finishing late at night, you're like pushing through the night. And that is a difference on our system. Like, it just, logically speaking, it is, because you're asking your body to digest stuff during the night when you're normally asleep,
It's probably when like the liquid kind of nutrition or calories are really good, because maybe it's easier to drink the broths, the tailwinds, kind of fueling, opposed to like pizza or whatever foods. So keep that kind of in the arsenal of fueling.
Yep.
You never quite know what you're going to feel like at 11 p.m. 1 a.m. But hopefully you've got it. There's always ways to like communicate with your crew person. Like I remember on Faultline, like you were craving Fanta.
Faultline's really good because it's got reception the entire course.
Right.
At Tarawera, out the back of these ones here, there's nothing. Didn't used to be anyway.
Yeah.
Even Okataina and stuff, patchy is.
I kind of remember your timing, Matt, in Okataina. I mean, in this race.
Outlet, wasn't it?
You hadn't ticked over, and I was like, "What's happened to Chris?"
Yeah, he's lost.
Meanwhile, he's actually crushing it. But
I was on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is good, like with the fueling, and that's what we always talk about with to our runners and athletes, and content we put out there. With the miler, you sort of have your options. It's like a basket of options, picnic basket of options there that you've tried in training. It's tried and tested, and then it's just you've got a vague idea, or not a vague idea, but you've got a good idea about how you're going to execute on that race day, but also just being a bit flexible on race day, in terms of how that might play out as well. So I think for me, early in the day, I tend to like eat a bit more. I'll be like, I always tend to go for the bars early in the day, bars and a bit of gels, that kind of thing. And then perhaps if it's a real hot day, through the middle part of the race, I'll go to sort of I have a high carb drink mix. So from Ruru Whakatu, I'm going to use Scratch fueling, and have a 440 cal 500ml bottle that I can just sip to get a good bang out of that. And I'll have a bottle with just water in it as well, that kind of way. And I can just refill, I can just top up that bottle of Scratch as I go around the other smaller aid stations, right? So as I go around, it'll become diluted, and that. That's sort of having some drink options during the day, and those those hot bits, the Cokes or the Mountain Dews or what's available at the aid stations.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff. And then tend to be like in that sort of evening part, I tend to like food. You're sort of a bit more heavier in the real food. Outlet Okataina, later in the late Arvo. Okataina is more like in the early mid-evening for me. Have some food, and then sort of like back into the race, you're getting into the late evening to that middle of the night sort of stuff. That's when sometimes we can have the stomach doesn't want to play ball, and that's when you sort of go for the tea options or the broth options, the noodly kind of things, the liquidy things that are gentle on the stomach and easy to put down. The chews and the Cokes as well. Then like Coke or ginger beer is gentle on the stomach. Just all that kind of stuff as you go into the night or into the middle of the night. And yeah, just remembering to fuel as well, because by that stage you're mentally fatigued as well. So if you've got a pacer, make sure they're talking to you about your fueling, and yeah, obviously sometimes you do have GI problems, or the stomach you get a bit nauseous, and you just, when it's like that, you just got to do your best, eh? You just can't keep shoving 250 calories down your throat if you're already feeling nauseous, because you're just that could be race ending. So sometimes a couple of hours you got to reduce your intake, just find different ways to keep it going in, but a reduced intake perhaps, and then you tend to work through those patches.
Yeah, I think the nauseous, that's when chews are really good. Yeah, they kind of obviously got calories in them, but they're a bit softer on your stomach. I've definitely had that.
Suck them too, eh?
Yeah, I've had that, and I had a really hard training run last year the night, and chews were like a savior for them, because it kind of kept me fueled, but it also calmed my stomach as well. So I really rate them as a form of almost nutrition and sort of anti-nausea sort of kind of
yeah, they're pretty good, aren't they? So there's scratch chews and goo, eh?
There's goo chews as well, yeah.
So have we covered this section? Have we covered this Buried Village to Okataina section? I think we kind of have, eh?
Yeah, I think we've covered quite a bit, really.
It'll be, drop bag for me at outlet. Like we talked about, heat management, and just being present, eh? It's just playing the course, playing the conditions. That's the real watch out kind of. It's the real watch out kind of patch for me. Especially I think the Buried Village to outlet. It should start cooling off sometime after outlet.
Then your legs will start hurting.
Yeah. Then you got sore legs. Outlet, drop bag thing, and then Okataina, pick up you, and then we're into the next block. So that we talked about. So Okataina to Blue Lake, 6 Ks approximately, and that first stretch, kind of breaking that up. It's about 14, 15 Ks from Okataina to Miller, and like we mentioned earlier, that native bush section with that climb at the start. So that's a good old decent chunk, in between aid stations, where it is in the race, got that climb at the start. It's going to be nighttime for most of the pack. So yeah, it's just one of those sections that are, that's what it is, eh? You're looking forward to getting to the other end of it, because then, you have Miller, which is 130, and then you're sort of really, once you get to Miller, you are sort of, geographically, you're getting closer to Rotorua. After Miller and before Blue Lake, you start seeing some houses, you feel like you're getting back to some civilization. Yeah, the support, it's, you do feel like you're getting through. So it's that Okataina to Miller is something that you look forward to kind of breaking. But for me as well, it's just about being patient. It's going to take the time that it takes to get through there. I'll be looking forward to getting to Miller, because then after Miller, or actually a couple of kilometres just before Miller, it starts to get a nice downward trend here. You can see it on the elevation profile at the bottom where the blue dot's moving. A couple of Ks before Miller, you start getting some nice downhill. And then after Miller to Blue Lake, it's actually not too bad in terms of you got some road downhill. You got a bit of flat stuff through Boys Beach. After Miller, Boys Beach alongside Lake Okaraka. Some boardwalk, some nice running, a bit more road. And then you got Tennant's Track, which is probably literally only, Tennant's Track is about a 1.2k section of the trail before you get to Blue Lake. Probably the only routey section of the entire race.
I would say so. Yes.
I think it's pretty hilarious, isn't
it?
I guess that we know of. Pretty sure that is. Yeah, and it's only 1.2 Ks, Rudy, native bush. And then you pop out and you go around Blue Lake. So Tennant's is around this little bit here. Then you go around Blue Lake to Blue Lake. And I think Yeah, as well, like it's mentally an interesting section to prepare for. This section too, you've got 5 odd kilometres from the time you pop out at Tennants. You've got a road crossing. This is probably where you're going to have to whack on the high vis again, I would imagine. And yeah, when you pop out of Tennants across the road here, you can literally touch and see the aid station. You can just smell that pizza.
Yeah.
You can hear the support, and it's, you've still got to go and do that 5Ks. And depending where you are in the field, that could be an hour for some people. Some people like a bit more if you're towards the end. Like if you're the rear packer, mid to rear packer. Yeah.
It's pretty good going.
So it's just one of those things. You got to be like, okay, put this section in a box.
Yeah, and like Blue Lake is a trail. Like it isn't probably like it's not hard, but it is trail. Like it's single trail.
More stairs. Yeah.
It's not as like simple as some other aspects of the course. It's obviously a very beautiful trail. Even probably running at night, it's probably quite beautiful.
So yeah, and then as you're coming alongside the lake to the course as well, it feels like you're coming along. It feels like you're on the aid station that you should be getting there, but you sort of see it. You pop out in this little bit here, and you can kind of see the aid station from here, and you're like, oh no, but there's still a K or a bit more to go.
It's like this why sound travels right as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just prepare for that.
Mm.
Yeah, it takes what it takes to get around Blue Lake, that part of the race. So it's a nice little call out there. And then got the last section that we talked about, Tikitapu, Blue Lake, aid station to the finish line. And Blue Lake's an interesting aid station in the context of the miler and your race. You can be feeling great and pass through there fairly quickly. Or you can be feeling rubbish and need to sit down and reset some stuff. It just all depends how you have gone about your day prior to that and what kind of experience that you've had out there. Obviously your training preparation has an influence on how your day is as well. But yep, it can be, we see all sorts. We've been a number of years, on the course at Blue Lake, various aid stations on the course for Tarawera, and you just see all sorts, don't you?
Yeah, it was just so far into the race. Like you've ran 145 Ks and you still have like 15 to 20 to go. Yeah. And it's a significant time. And it's just like, yeah, most of you, if it's first timers, like maybe it's well and truly the longest run you've ever done. It's just a really interesting sort of time in a miler, like the 100, sort of like that 130 to 155 Ks. Yeah. It's just real like tick box or grinding or everything will be sore.
Like it doesn't mean you can't run though. Like it doesn't mean you can't run, and that's going to be one of my mental focuses or sort of mantras going into it, is just to keep in the process. And when I did Faultline, it didn't have a pacer, so my mind did wander a bit towards the end of that race, and so this time, having a pacer, it's going to be a bit different. Just sort of you can mentally deload like quite a bit there, Yeah,
that's a really good point as well. It's like your why you're doing a miler is bigger than like your how to do it. So it's well and truly into the mental game here. Like
tap into those resources.
Yeah,
that's wise. Yeah,
your body like long ago was like, "What the heck are we doing? I think we need to stop." From a physical standpoint, but like mentally, that's why your why is so important, because it's going to pull you through. And you don't necessarily know 100% of why you're doing a miler until you do it, but you should have like a significant why you're doing this, because that's going to like carry you through the hard times. Because like there's a saying, like you're going to have a lifetime of emotions like in 100-mile race. You're going to have highs, lows, angry, challenging, all that kind of thing, and you've got to get through it, and
yeah, there's only one way through it, and that's through it.
Yeah, and you have to go through each K, each aid station, each hill, each downhill, and it's just pulling in probably those sort of tools from your toolkit, you know, this far into the race, opposed to,
Definitely.
you know, things like physical aspects maybe earlier in the race, like the ice cloth or sponge or whatever, change your shoes. Like, the reality is that, you know, you hopefully have dealt with that blister and stuff. So it's just coming down to that mental side of things.
Yeah, by then, just propelling, just moving forward, constantly moving forward. You know, whether it's a fast hike or it's run, jog, jog, walk, all that stuff. It's just keep moving forward, stay in the process, and talk to your pacer as well, like about your why, and ask them to, maybe you've got a couple of cues for them to kind of bring up if you're fatigued or you know, you lose some focus towards the end. It's a good time for them to bring up stuff.
Yeah, and like on the pacing topic, like a pacer for you can look like a variety of things, right? And it's kind of having that conversation with your pacer in terms of some like expectations or sort of how you'd like them to be. Like, obviously with a race, like, you can't necessarily rate, like, you're not really in control of like the outcome. You have a plan, but you kind of have to mold to things that crop up. But if you're the type of person that's like, yeah, Chris, get going, or like, Chris, you're doing so well.
Yeah, don't do that to me.
Yeah. But if you're that type of person, that's great. You know, it's just like your pacer needs to know this. And, you know, your pacer is there from like making sure that you stay like moving forward, moving fast, if you're like traditional, like, you know, on pace kind of thing, or if it's there as more of an encouragement and aid kind of thing. You know, it's kind of like loosely kind of having some guidelines on what is expected, I think is probably a really good tip, because then they know, and then you kind of know what they're kind of going to do as well.
Yeah. No, it's good to have a few of those conversations, and you know, for your pacer to know, like, if you know, if it's their first time pacing, you know, if you're quiet and you don't want to talk, it doesn't mean they've done something wrong, you know, like just letting them know that kind of stuff. And sometimes you want them to go in front, sometimes you want them to go behind, like just those kind of things. Cool. I think that's about it for this one, isn't it?
I have one funny little tip
as
well.
Good.
I suggest that taking off your K lap button, taking that off for a 100-mile race, right?
Yeah, or just hiding, turning off the beep. Yeah.
Because if you have it going 160 odd Ks, that could get annoying, and plus you could distract you from bigger processes, opposed to like what your split was, because like we referred to, like, there's much bigger sort of problems or things you can change outside the sort of pace of your race that you need to focus on. Yeah,
I typically will hide like stuff like that. I'll just navigate to the heart rate only screen. Not that I'm obsessing about my heart rate and miler, but it's just, you know, it's better than me looking down at the amount of time or distance I've been out there for. And just at those sort of key aid stations, I'll flip to check my distance and stuff and my time, just more of a checkpoint kind of curiosity reason. But in between times when it's process focus, just tend to have the heart rate screen on.
Cool.
And just be process focused.
Sounds good.
Righty ho, my friends. Thank you for watching. I hope you have got plenty out of this. Comment down below. Love to hear from you guys, like what your kind of approach is to your miler, how you're approaching it, how you're breaking it down, where you're putting your drop bags. I'd love to carry on the conversation with you in the comments below. Sing out if you've got any questions as well, or other topics you want to try and get us to squeeze out between now and race day.
And nice. See you out there. I'll see you out there.
Yes. Catch you on the next one, my friends.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.